flickering torchlight danced on the vault's shadowy ceiling, casting elongated shapes that writhed like tortured souls over the piles of treasure. The air hung heavy with the dust of plundered nations and a faint metallic temps of blood money, mingling with the despair of conquered peoples. At the head of it all stood Heinrich Himmler, his gaunt face a mask of ideological fanaticism, veiling a soul fractured by the insatiable greed that clashed with his twisted vision of Aryan purity. It was here in the heart of Berlin's Reichsbank in 1943 that the architect of the Holocaust oversaw the influx of Nazi gold, each bar a silent testament to the depth of his depravity. The rhythmic clang of metal on stone echoed through the vault as workers unloaded cart after cart of gold bars, their origins erased and their new owners distant. Himmler watched impassively, his eyes betraying nothing of the turmoil that raged within him. On one hand, he was a man possessed by a fanatical ideology, driven to cleanse the world of its impurities. On the other, he was a bureaucrat, recognizing the monstrous cost of maintaining his vision. As the leader of the SS, Himmler was both fascinated and repelled by the godlike power that his organization wielded over the conquered nations of Europe. But that very power was now turning on him, whispering of inevitable downfall. His empire of hate was built on the ashes of millions, yet even he could not deny the chill that ran down his spine. When confronted with the full measure of his own destruction, amongst the gold, diamonds and other treasures looted from across Europe, Himmler saw not just the fruits of his labor, but a tangible representation of the very essence of humanity, a life force that he sought to destroy. He envisioned a world where only the master race thrived, a world without the taint of weakness that he associated with diversity. Yet, as he surveyed the riches at his command, he knew that his vision was built on a foundation of sand, that the diversity he despised was what gave life its richness, its color and texture. The gold, once the lifeblood of nations, now lay inert, a cold, lifeless mass that mocked his feverish dreams. Each bar was a silent accusation, a testament to the depth of his depravity. And as the years passed, Himmler found himself increasingly haunted by the echoes of the past, the laughter of children, the murmur of lovers, the murmur of prayers in countless languages, all taken from him by the very forces he commanded. He had planned for this moment, spending years amassing a personal fortune in anticipation of his party's eventual collapse. Yet, as the Allied armies advanced, he realized that it was too late. His crimes were catching up to him, and there was no escape from the reckoning that awaited. And so it was that in 1945, as the Russians closed in on Berlin, Himmler slipped into the shadows, swallowed a cyanide capsule, and vanished into infamy. His capture was swift, but his interrogators found little of value in his shattered mind. By the time they brought him to justice, Himmler had already paid the ultimate price for his crimes. Yet even in death, he remained a symbol of the Nazi regime's insatiable greed and its legacy of hate. For the people of Europe, the stolen gold would never be fully reclaimed, but they would carry the memory of their loss forever. It was a reminder that the darkest chapters of history could be written not just with ink and paper, but with blood and fire. Heinrich Himmler, born in 1900, amid the bourgeois comforts of Bavaria, had risen from humble beginnings to become the architect of genocide. World War I's humiliation had left an indelible scar on his psyche, fueling a burning hatred for Jews and Slavs that would define his future. Conflicted between the perverse thrill of orchestrating atrocities and the need for order and efficiency, he amassed a fortune that mocked his public persona of an ascetic ideologue. Fated to a coward's end in Allied captivity, he died knowing that his legacy would be one of infamy. Himmler's story is a chilling reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink. A man who orchestrated the Holocaust still trembled at the abyss of his own moral decay. Caught between the godlike power of the SS and the gnawing fear of inevitable downfall, he was doomed to pay the ultimate price for his crimes. His fall from grace was as swift as it was brutal, leaving behind a legacy of ash and blood that continues to haunt us to this day. In the closing days of World War II, Himmler's world crumbled around him, leaving him desperate and disillusioned. Yet even in defeat, he clung to his vision of a master race, refusing to accept the reality of his own mortality. But as the Allied armies closed in on Berlin, he knew that time was running out. And so it was that on May 23, 1945, Himmler slipped into the shadows, swallowing a cyanide capsule and disappearing into infamy. His capture was swift, but his interrogators found little of value in his shattered mind. By the time they brought him to justice, Himmler had already paid the ultimate price for his crimes. Yet even in death, he remained a symbol of the Nazi regime's insatiable greed and its legacy of hate. For the people of Europe, the stolen gold would never be fully reclaimed, but they would carry the memory of their loss forever. It was a reminder that the darkest chapters of history could be written not just with ink and paper, but with blood and fire. As Allied troops closed in on Berlin, SS Chief Heinrich Himmler barks frantic orders amidst the crumbling facade of the Chancellery bomb. Craters yawned like open graves under skies choked with smoke from burning documents. The distant thunder of Soviet artillery rolled like divine retribution across the rubble-strewn streets. It was April 1945. Germany was hemorrhaging its last breaths. And in this morbid tableau, Himmler's face, pale as ashes, was set in a mask of fanaticism. His eyes, dark pits of desperation, reflect the flickering lamplight dancing on the walls of his bunker. The air hung heavy with the stench of stale waste and decay, a fitting atmosphere for the collapse of a regime. In this subterranean labyrinth, Himmler orchestrated the desperate dispersal of Nazi gold. His feverish commands barked into phones like a deranged conductor leading an orchestra of ruin. Emergency generators hummed, their labored breaths echoing the dire straits of the Nazi state. Each tick-tock of the clock counted down their impending doom. But even in this maelstrom of defeat, Himmler's mind raced, torn between two destructive impulses. One, the fanaticism of a true believer, urging him to hoard the treasure for a future Fourth Reich. The other, the selfish urge to secure a personal escape, to save his own skin. Thus it was that in these final days of the Third Reich, Himmler found himself caught in the throes of a delirious conflict, both within and without. Outside, the storm of war raged, tearing at the very fabric of Nazi Germany. Within, the tempest of his own conflicted soul threatened to consume him. This was the tragic spectacle of a man damned to damn others, forever trapped between SS fanaticism and the gnawing pangs of his own mortality. On April, Himmler, clad in a black SS uniform, his gaunt face, a mask of grim determination, stood before the ruins of the Chancellery. He had given the order for the evacuation of Berlin. Now he watched as SS convoys snaked their way through the Bavarian forests towards the Merkers mine, laden with crates and bags believed to contain the bulk of the Nazi gold. At the mine, Himmler's close associate, Walter Roff, barked orders, ensuring the gold's concealment. The mine shafts were sealed with dynamite blasts, their echoes resounding like thunderclaps in the caverns. Images seared themselves onto the minds of those present, figures silhouetted against explosions, dust clouds billowing like shrouds over buried treasures. Meanwhile, in the heart of Switzerland, SS accountant Joseph appeared in a stuffy bank vault, his face illuminated by the dim lamp. He methodically checked off entries in a ledger detailing the transfer of gold bars. Each entry represented not just a financial transaction, but a piece of the horror that was Nazi Germany. Working late into the night, Paul meticulously recorded the transfer of gold, oblivious to the nightmares that awaited him. Back in Berlin, Himmler's trusted aide, Ernst Kaltenbrunner, stood amidst piles of gold in an Austrian hide. His tall frame seemed to shrink under the weight of defeat. His eyes, usually hard and cold, now flickered with fear and uncertainty. He understood the gravity of their situation and the impossible choices they faced. As the Allied troops closed in, Himmler gave the order to disperse. Some of the gold was taken to farms in Bavaria, buried in haystacks that reeked of manure, a feeble attempt to mask the metallic scent of the hidden treasure. Farmers who stumbled upon the gold in their attics or basements later recounted tales of cobwebs and spiders, as if the gold itself wished to be hidden from human sight. Skorzeny, Himmler's personal aide, led another group of SS officers through treacherous mountain passes, always looking over his shoulder, half expecting to see the ghostly figures of Jewish victims reclaiming their stolen gold. The threat of avalanches loomed, rocks tumbling down the mountainside like boulders of judgment. Meanwhile, deep in the Swiss Alps, divers in cumbersome leather suits plunged into the icy depths of Lake Toplitz. They sealed metal crates containing gold bars with heavy stones, lowered on ropes that swayed ominously like pendulums of fate. As the weeks turned into months, the full extent of Himmler's desperate measures became clear. Convoys were attacked, locals took what they could, and entire trains went missing. The disappearance of the gold was a disaster of chaos and confusion, a fitting end for a regime that had thrived on hate and division. In the end, only a fraction of the stolen gold was ever recovered. Much of it remains missing, lost to history, a secret sin resting in watery or subterranean graves. Or perhaps it's best left that way, a reminder that some things are better left buried. This is the harrowing account of how Nazi Germany's ill-gotten gains met their demise, a tale of desperation, greed, and the long arm of fate. If you want to know more about the world's most infamous treasure hunts, stay tuned for more updates. Amid the rubble-strewn aftermath of Berlin's surrender in May 1945, where Allied soldiers rummaged through bunkers under skies cleared of smoke, yet heavy with the pall of genocide, legacy and the faint gleam of recovered treasures mocked the voids left by missing hoards. American investigator Benjamin Ferencz pursued Nazi gold trails in Nuremberg's trial chambers, lit by harsh bulbs that cast stark shadows like judgments on defendants' faces. His prosecutor's zeal clashing with the horror of uncovering Holocaust's financial underbelly, a man whose justice's pursuit warred against the cynicism of unrecovered billions. Ferencz, born in 1920 amid Transylvania's mists, had risen from immigrant poverty to war crimes hunter, his psyche scarred by Auschwitz's gates, conflicted between legal precision and the rage that fueled his indictments. Fated to witness partial recoveries while billions vanished like ghosts in fog, as U.S. forces unearthed Merker's 250 tons in salt depths, where lamps illuminated stacks like golden pyramids in pharaonic tombs. Soldiers' eyes widened in awe, mixed with greed, some pocketing bars that burned consciences like stolen sacraments, the image haunting eternally. Figures hauling crates in minecarts, faces grimy under helmets, gold glinting in flashlight beams that pierced the gloom like beams of false redemption, echoes of laughter mingling with whispers of curses. Skorzeny's post-war network smuggled remnants to Argentina via ratplans, Peron welcoming with open arms that hid complicit palms, gold melting into bars unmarked like laundered sins in Buenos Aires vaults. Himmler's dead hand guided from grave, his acolytes like Adolf Eichmann, fleeing with suitcases heavy as guilt. Eichmann's bureaucratic evil clashing with fugitives, fear doomed to Mossad's noose in 1962, where Justice's rope avenged the unrecovered. Lake Toplitz's dives in 1947 yielded forged pounds but no gold. Divers surfacing with tales of sunken crates guarded by logs like underwater sentinels, the scene lingering, bubbles bursting on surface. Figures in suits emerging from depths with empty hands, waters rippling like veils over hidden shame. Swiss banks in 1990's audits revealed 60 tons laundered, pools, ghosts rising in hearings where survivors testified, faces lined with age's chisel, yet eyes burning with unresolved grief. Ferencz's team traced to Vatican cloisters where ratlins funneled gold, bishops' rings glinting like complicit emblems in candlelit chambers. Monthlan-like figures in the SS, such as Klaus Barbie, bartered gold for freedom in Bolivia, his Gestapo tortures clashing with exile's luxury. Fated 2 extraditions chains in 1987, where Lyon's trials exposed his hoard-funded escapes. Modern hunts in 2015's Polish mountains chased gold train. Legends radar scans piercing Earth-like inquisitorial probes. Treasure seekers like Piotr Koper enduring legal battles amid Owl Mountain's fog their optimism, warring against skepticism's tide, doomed to empty digs, where myths outlived facts. Yamashita's Philippine gold rumors lured hunters to jungles where vines choked entrances like nature's barriers, bodies lost in collapses that echoed wartime traps. Argentine caches surfaced in 2017 raids. Nazi artifacts mingled with bullion in hidden bunkers. Perron's successors denying links while shadows whispered of enduring evil. Ferenc's legacy in books chronicled the hunt, his voice fading in interviews where age's tremor betrayed undimmed fire. The gold's thieves, Nazis, collaborators, opportunists, dissolved in time's sands. Billions unrecovered like ghosts of plundered lives, a baroque dirge of avarice's fall and justice's partial dawn. And on that note, we end this episode. If you enjoyed it, please show your support. Until next time.